Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. And in today's video, we're doing a review on the Turrican Flashback collection from In Games, so let's get into it. So the Turrican Flashback collection is a collection of Turrican games, which was a series that originated on the Commodore 64 and had several releases in the early 90s on console systems as well. Now, I never owned any of the Turrican games growing up, so I didn't really have any nostalgia for this series, but it really reminded me of some of the series that I did enjoy growing up, like the Metroid and Contra series. And so the gameplay itself really resembles an action side-scrolling shooter. And why it made me think of the Metroid series a lot is that you ran around in this suit of armor, fighting against evil machines, and you'd find different power-ups as you went along. And a lot of the terrain seemed very alien-esque, and you fought crazy robots and alien monsters as well as you played. Plus it kind of seemed very maze-like as you played as well. Now, it wasn't like one continuous level as you played like the Metroid games are, but you did traverse around and kind of had the ability to go on a bunch of different branching paths and uncover different secrets in the levels to get various power-ups before you eventually fought different bosses as you played. It also, again, kind of reminded me of Contra because you had different weapons that you could collect, like you had your standard gun, you had a spread shot, you had a laser beam, but then you could also pick up different bombs and other power-ups. But then again, kind of going back to the Metroid theme, it had a morph ball type ability that you could use, but it was limited, but eventually you could pick up more power-ups to use it multiple times. Now, the collection comes with a bunch of the games in the series, but each one follows a similar type of plot, where there's an evil AI machine enemy that has taken over the world, and you put on the Turrican suit of armor to challenge them and save humanity. And each one is kind of a different twist on that same general plot. But again, as you play, there's not a ton of plot that's revealed until the later games in the series. The gameplay itself is also really challenging, so I think you'll have a hard time playing this game as you first get started, but as you get the hang of it, kind of learn the areas and where to go and where not to go, you'll be able to make it further in the game. You also have a limited number of lives and continues as you play, making it extra challenging, but again, you can eventually get extra guys as you play, hidden throughout the different levels. There isn't like a password system or anything like that in the game either, but in this Turrican collection version, you have the ability to use save states, which you'll probably use as you first play the game to be able to make it all the way through. The collection also highlights a bunch of cheats that you can use. I think they were programmed in the original game. They just kind of list it for you there before you start playing if you want to use those and activate them. But you won't get any of the trophies or unlockables if you go that route. Another cool thing with the collection is that it gives you a lot of features to mess with the display and how the game looks, so you can have it come out similar to maybe how you played it originally on the Commodore 64 and the other systems it was on. Now, a couple things I didn't necessarily like about the game is that it kind of really limited the window that you could actually see. And I'm guessing that was probably just from the graphic limitations on the earlier systems that it was on. But a lot of times you'll be jumping into areas and running into parts where you have no idea what's coming. And so you might jump off a ledge only to fall into a pit that you had no idea was there because the screen wasn't big enough to show where you were actually going. And so that could definitely be frustrating at times. But as you play the levels repeatedly, you'll figure out where those pitfalls are, and then it can get pretty fast as you go through the different levels. Now, each individual game isn't necessarily that long. Each one on the collection can be anywhere from 2 to 3 hours as you play. Obviously, there's a learning curve in the beginning, but you start to get better as you go along. And you'll probably have an easier time with the later games if you started playing through on some of the earlier versions as you've gotten the hang of the game. The music in the game is really cool. Each one has its own unique soundtrack. And it's kind of that early techno beat that you'll see in a lot of different early video games, and I really liked it. But overall, I really did enjoy this collection. Never really playing them growing up. It was cool to see some of these early video games and how they played out. Like I said, it was very similar to some of my favorite game series like the Metroid series and the Contra series, with similar style gameplay of an action platformer shooter with some boss fights thrown in as well. Plus, in this collection, the addition of save states and letting you know the different cheats in the game can make it a little bit easier to get through, which is fun, especially if you're new to this type of genre. Plus, with the collection, getting the 4 different games, I think that gives you a lot of replay value and really extends the life that you'll play this game. But let me know in the comments below if you've played this game before, what you thought about it. if you're gonna pick up the collection now that you've heard about it. If there are other action shooter platformers like this I should check out as well, let me know in the comments below. But if you guys like this video, be sure to smash that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new videos we put out. And if you'd like to help us support the channel, pick out content and more, become a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel, you can follow us on Twitch at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.